Yeah, and look, Diego didn't really change that much. He said he was going to be a little bit more patient, and he's very crafty. I mean, but Alex is very he's very patient. He's not one to rush in for a knockout and get caught stupidly.
Mm.
And we've been, like I said, working on some of Alex's things that where he is getting caught. We've been really working on that, and I think it'll show in the fight.
Mm. Are you anticipating a similar sort of battle, or do you think this one's even more? I mean, the first one was quite dominant for Alex outside of the bits that you mentioned with the eye, but do you imagine it's going to be more of the same, or do you think this one's going to be a little bit more dominant this time around for Alex in terms of how it plays out?
I think Alex is a lot more confident this time. He had a lot of doubt and a lot of pressure on him on the last fight, after coming
Yeah.
back from the losses. So this time out, he's coming with a different mindset than he did to the last one. It's more.
Alexander Volkanovski is already back in grind mode. With the Lopes fight locked in, the former champ has quietly started training, sharpening his tools and dialing in the details. No big talk, no flash, just hard work. Volk knows what's at stake, and this camp looks all about focus, urgency, and getting back to his best.
Diego Lopes also went 5 full rounds. We didn't know what his cardio was going to be. Volk was in there. He felt the pressure. He felt the power. And because of that, I assume Volk's going to wrestle here. But he tried to wrestle last fight. He went 1 for 11 in his takedown attempts. This is a really fun rematch to break down. And it's likely a fun fight to watch. My heart is saying Diego, and that he'll find the button this time around. My brain is saying we just saw this fight, and not much has changed. The only thing that's changed between the last fight and this fight is Diego has felt it. Diego was in a 5-round main event. Diego fought for a belt, and maybe those jitters are out of the way and he just shows up ready to go, all animal, not worried about a thing. Or he lost his fight already. It's in his head. Or he shows up perfectly ready to go, and it doesn't matter because Volk's just a better fighter. I'm going to have to lean Volk. I'm going to use the big boy brain. I picked Diego the first time. I was wrong. I was almost right in the second round. I ended up being wrong. And now that
Volk's coach made it clear that this rematch was not something they were pushing for, but once it was offered, they accepted it without hesitation. He explained that the team was originally preparing for other names because, based on recent wins, different fighters seemed more deserving on paper.
I guess it was a bit of a shock, like to anybody, because no disrespect to Diego, because I think he's a great fighter, but we just beat him. Mosvald and Murphy, I think, on paper are probably more deserving of that title shot, but, we don't call the shots. That's up to the UFC, and they've given us Diego, so, that's the card there.
On the actual fight itself, the coach showed respect, but zero fear of Lopes. He pointed out that anyone in the top tier is dangerous, but he also leaned heavily on how dominant Volk was across 5 rounds. Outside of one brief moment when Volk's eye was badly compromised, Lopes struggled to find answers. That imbalance is something the team believes weighs on Lopes mentally. Going into a quick rematch, being locked in with the same opponent who already shut you down can be tough to deal with.
First fight was so dominant, right? When you approach and the funny thing is you guys have had to rematch Max Holloway over and over and over and over. But here we go, Diego Lopes back to back like this. When you're this dominant in the first fight, what is the feeling like going into a rematch so soon?
Well, look, Diego's very dangerous, out of, like I always say, anybody in that top 5 is dangerous. So, we're not going to take him lightly, and obviously he's going to change a few things and we're going to change a few things and, see who the better man is on the day. But, I think, Alex has got, he's got that win over
Finally, the coach sounded confident about how Volk is approaching this camp. He said Volk is calmer, more sure of himself, and not carrying the same pressure as last time. Before, Volk felt like he had something to prove. Now he knows exactly where he stands. The team has studied where Volk took damage and tightened those areas, while already having 5 full rounds of data on Lopes. That confidence, combined with experience, is why they believe this fight could look even more controlled than the first one.
Yeah, and look, Diego didn't really change that much. He said he was going to be a little bit more patient, and he's very crafty. I mean, but you know, Alex is very he's very patient. He's not one to rush in for a knockout and get caught stupidly, you know. And we've been, like I said, working on some of Alex's things that where he is getting caught. We've been really working on that, and I think it'll show in the fight, Are
you anticipating a similar sort of battle, or do you think this one's even more? I mean, the first one was quite dominant for Alex outside of the bits that you mentioned with the eye, but do you imagine it's going to be more of the same, or do you think this one's going to be a little bit more dominant this time around for Alex in terms of how it plays out?
I think Alex is a lot more confident this time. He had a lot of doubt and a lot of pressure on him on the last fight, after coming back from the losses. So this time out, he's coming with a different mindset than he did to the last one. It's more.
Diego Lopes talked about Volkanovski with a lot more confidence than last time. He made it clear that after the first fight, he feels like a different fighter now. Going 5 rounds answered questions he had about himself, especially about cardio and handling pressure. He sounded calm and sure when he spoke about the rematch, like someone who has already been there once and knows what to expect this time.
I told you before the fight, I need a great win for put my name again for the table, the title, I think I make a great job in not UFC. I think now UFC have a big problem for the next for the title, I waited for rematch with Volk. I think now I'm much better fighter of the last time. I want the rematch with Volk.
That's what you want next. You want the title shot next.
I hope.
I hope. And
I hope.
Do you think there is a chance that they give it to you?
I think so.
He also explained why he believes he deserves to fight Volk again. Lopes pointed to the win he just had and the way fans reacted to him. In his mind, the division needs exciting fights, and he sees himself as the most dangerous and entertaining option for Volkanovski right now. He did not talk like he was hoping for a chance. He talked like he earned it and expects the UFC to see it the same way.
Oh, I think so, because, bro, it's like, people love to watch me. People love to watch me. Lose or win, the people love to watch me. And I think now in the division, in the top 5, the most excited fighter for Volk, it's me,
The reason I'm asking you this is because I thought that they were going to maybe do you versus Aljamain, you versus Movsar, and give it to Lerone. But now I'm starting to see some interviews and tweets from Lerone, from Volk, and now I'm starting to feel like they're going in your direction, like it's going to be you versus Volkanovski. Are you getting that same feeling? Is that what you're hinting at?
Yeah, I think the feel is this, because I make a great job, great knockout. UFC like my style too. I think now I have a lot possibility for the fight.
James Lynch made it pretty clear that he does not see this rematch changing much inside the cage. From his point of view, the first fight already answered the biggest questions. Volk was in control across all 5 rounds, and nothing in that matchup suggested Lopes had figured him out. Because of that, Lynch leaned toward the idea that Volk would likely win again if this fight happens. His frustration was not about Lopes as a fighter, but about repeating a fight that already felt settled.
I mean, this sucks. Like, what are we doing here? And I like Diego Lopes. This is not any sort of shade on him whatsoever, and full marks for his last win over Jean Silva. Outstanding performance. He's right near the top, but why are we doing this rematch so soon? It's not even a year since the last fight took place. That fight was back in April of 2025. Of course, Volk winning back the title when the title was vacant with Ilia Topuria moving up. And now Lopez is getting another shot after one fight. This is what Volk's been waiting for, to fight Diego Lopes again.
He broke down why he thinks this rematch favors Volk even more the second time. Lynch pointed to how lopsided the numbers were in the first fight, especially when it came to volume and control. Volk landed far more strikes, won every round on the scorecards, and even mixed in wrestling when needed. For Lynch, those details matter because they show dominance, not just a close decision. That kind of gap usually does not disappear in a quick rematch.
Rematch so soon. If we go look at the first fight, if you look on MMA decisions, the fight did go the distance, but not a single media member scored the fight for Diego Lopes, right? And then you could say, well, you know what? It was still close, right? But then if you look at the actual stats here, significant strikes, there's a huge difference here. 158 to 63. Total strikes, 165 to 71. And then you look at the takedowns. Volk got a takedown. Lopez got no takedowns. You look at the rounds. Volk's in red here. All Volk. Like, I can understand if we had a fight, like, for example, we had the Umar and Merab fight. That fight was close. Merab won. I don't think there's any debate that he won. But that fight, you could say it's at least a little bit closer. And, again, like, that fight I could understand. But this fight wasn't close. Like, Volk clearly won.
Lynch also hinted that the situation could actually hurt Lopez if he loses again. He explained that going back to the same opponent too soon can trap a fighter. If Volk beats him again, Lopez is stuck waiting while the champion moves on. That is why Lynch felt the UFC was rushing this instead of letting Lopez build more wins. In his eyes, this setup creates more risk for Lopez than reward, especially against someone at Volk's level.
Boil this down a different way. What if Volk goes out there and he beats Lopez again? What the hell does Lopez do? He waits for Volk to retire? That might be a bit. I don't know. We'll see. I just think this is so short-sighted of the UFC. It reminds me when they booked Yuri against Pereira so quickly after Yuri's lost the title to Pereira. They did it a couple fights later. And now, as of this year, Yuri's in the spot where it's like, should he really fight Pereira again after losing to him twice? Lopez would be in the same boat here if he loses again. I think it's really short-sighted to the UFC. And even
when Angelo broke down the first fight, he didn't act like it was a mystery. He believed Volkanovski was clearly the better fighter over 5 rounds. Volk stayed busy, stayed close, mixed in grappling, and never let the fight slip away. But at the same time, Angelo kept coming back to one key detail. Lopez was the only one who truly came close to ending the fight. That knockdown mattered to him because it showed Lopez had real danger, even against someone as polished as Volk.
Or worse in the first fight. We have to look at how that first fight went. Was it a masterclass from Volk with one slight sip up, just getting him rocked in the second round? Or was Diego frozen by the moment with the jitters in his first main event? But this time, with that out of the way, he's going to thrive. I'm somewhere in the middle. It was clear to me that Volk was the better fighter in their first matchup, but Diego was the only one close to finding a finish. Volkanovski didn't almost finish Diego Lopez. He just did what he does. Stayed busy, got in his face, got the takedowns, didn't worry about it. He just stayed busy. Diego Lopez was the one who almost found a finish.
He also spent time talking about what changes in a second fight like this. Angelo felt Lopez going 5 rounds for the first time was huge. The questions about his cardio were answered and the nerves of a first main event were gone. But he didn't fully buy into the idea that this alone flips the result. In his mind, Volk already felt Lopez's power and survived it. That experience could push Volk to fight smarter, lean more on wrestling, and avoid unnecessary risks.
Diego Lopez also went 5 full rounds. We didn't know what his cardio was going to be. Volk was in there. He felt the pressure. He felt the power. And because of that, I assume Volk's going to wrestle here. But he tried to wrestle last fight. He went 1 for 11 in his takedown attempts. This is a really fun rematch to break down. And it's likely a fun fight to watch. My heart is saying Diego. And that he'll find the button this time around. My brain is saying we just saw this fight and not much has changed. The only thing that's changed between the last fight and this fight is Diego has felt it. Diego was in a 5-round main event. Diego fought for a belt, and maybe those jitters are out of the way, and he just shows up ready to go, all animal, not worried about a thing. Or he lost his fight already. It's in his head. Or he shows up perfectly ready to go, and it doesn't matter because Volk's just a better fighter. I'm going to have to lean Volk. I'm going to use the big boy brain. I picked Diego the first time. I was wrong. I was almost right in the second round. I ended up being wrong. And now that
MMA Guru came away believing this fight showed that Volk is still very much himself, even if people tried to say otherwise. He pushed back hard on the idea that Volk was boring or running. From his view, Volk was actively engaging for most of the fight, standing his ground, trading shots, and mixing in wrestling when it made sense. He felt the criticism was lazy and didn't match what actually happened in the cage, especially considering how dangerous Lopes is. He also explained why he thought the performance mattered more than his own wrong prediction. Guru admitted he expected Lopes to finish Volk late, but the way Volk absorbed damage changed everything. He focused a lot on Volk's durability, pointing out how well he took clean shots after recent knockout losses. For him, this was proof that Volk's chin is still reliable and that the narrative around him being washed doesn't hold up when you look closely at the fight. Breaking down the rounds, Guru made it clear he didn't see this as a shutout, but he still saw Volk as the clear winner. He gave Lopes credit for round 2 because of the knockdown, but outside of that moment, he felt Volk was winning most exchanges. He emphasized how Volk consistently landed cleaner, more effective strikes, especially in the pocket, and how Lopes had moments but couldn't sustain control across rounds. It's official now. The rematch is happening, and there's no more guessing left. Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopes are set to do this again, and the stakes feel even bigger this time. Volk is already deep in training, focused on tightening every detail and making sure there are no risky moments. Lopes, on the other hand, believes he's grown since the first fight and sees this as his moment to flip the result. Both guys know exactly what they're dealing with now, which makes this rematch even more interesting. Let us know in the comments below who you're backing when they step back into the cage.